Can spousal support or maintenance orders be changed after a divorce is finalized?
Absolutely. All the time. Basically, any kind of.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Attorney Holly Mullin, and I am the managing partner at Sterling Law Offices. I have special guest, Attorney Jeff Morrell. Jeff is a senior partner in our Appleton office. Thank you for being with us again today.
Happy to be here again. Thanks, Holly.
Yes, as always, I am looking to pick your brain on the hottest topics in family law. You previously joined us on an episode regarding maintenance. And in that episode, we talked about maintenance means the same thing as alimony and spousal support. In Wisconsin, we call it maintenance. One episode is not enough to cover that vast topic. It's a super complex topic. So let's get into more of the nitty gritty when it comes to maintenance. I talked today about what to expect, some unique circumstances within maintenance, and how it might be calculated in cases. So with that, give us a reminder, a quick overview, what maintenance is, factors, if you can give us the top 5 quick bullet points on maintenance, just to refresh everyone's memory on what we're talking about here.
Sure. Yeah. Maintenance is payment from one spouse to another, usually from a higher earning spouse to a lower earning or non-earning spouse for their support after the divorce is finalized. It's not child support, but it is related to child support if you have kids. It's based on your individual earning capacities, even if you're not actively earning an income or not actively earning like to what your capacity is. And it mostly depends on things like the length of the marriage, the income differential between the two of you, and the earning capacity between the two of you.
What happens when, let's say, husband was a stay-at-home father and he's still young at the time of the divorce? Maybe he's still in his late 30s or late 40s. He's got a lot of time ahead of him before retirement age rolls around. What do we do with that? What do we do with husband who is underemployed or unemployed when the divorce is filed?
Yeah. So one of my least favorite things to do in this job, which is prepare for a trial that it probably will never happen, because at a trial, you need to present evidence. I can't just point at that guy and say, Judge, that guy can go work at Home Depot and make $20 an hour. I can't just say that because I'm not an expert in occupations. Judge will never accept that. And opposing counsel knows that. So the lawyer on the other side is representing the husband also knows that. And so they're going to make me prove it to them. So usually what we'll do, if we can't get an agreement on that, is we actually go hire someone called like a vocational evaluator. And that's someone who's an expert in vocations, in jobs. And they meet with that person. Typically, they review their CV, their resume, their work history, their health status. They talk to them, have a job interview almost. And then they write up a report. And then we use that report to negotiate. And if we can't come to an agreement through negotiations regarding that earning capacity and we have a trial on it, that vocational evaluator then can come testify at the trial.
Almost sounds to me like a home appraisal to some extent. It's like an appraisal of a person, right? It's, you may not actually be selling this house. Just like this person may not actually be working, doesn't mean there's not a value there. Doesn't mean that's not actually something they can bring to the table. So that's really helpful information. It's like you're proving up the argument that you intend to make, even if you never actually have to present it to a judge. You're still setting the table for, hey, if this goes to court, this is what I'm going to be arguing about. So we might as well negotiate under that pretense.
And there are situations like where a divorce is ongoing, especially where money is tight and someone isn't working, where a judge or a family court commissioner might order a work search requirement, requiring that person to go and apply for 5, 10, 15 jobs a week and keep doing that until they get a job, because the responsibility to the marital estate, preserving certain assets so that there's enough income to support a mortgage or car payments so that we don't lose those assets, or to support the kids. That's not uncommon either, where finances are especially tight.
When you're talking through maintenance and you're determining, hey, this case is ripe for maintenance, there's issues here, the factors lean towards, yep, we're going to have a maintenance payment. You have this twofold conversation. You have one, what's the amount? How much is going to have to be paid every month? And then the second is, and how long is it going to be paid for? So once you factor in that maintenance is going to exist, what's the next step when you're having conversations with clients about determining the amount and the duration?
Determining the amount depends a lot on the factors. Typical lawyer answer that it depends. But there are some standardized calculations that we do. They're called Mac Davis calculations from Judge Mac Davis, who came up with them. Basically, what it does is it looks at each party's income or their earning capacity, takes out standard taxes, so federal and state taxes, and then we're going to combine all of that money into one pot. So let's say each person makes $50,000 after taxes, then we have $100,000 combined. If we said 50-50, equally divide that, each person gets 50,000. But let's say that a judge didn't think that was necessarily fair, and it should be 55-45, where one person gets 55% of the income. That calculation then will determine how much needs to be paid from one spouse to the other to make it so that one person has $55,000 and one person has $45,000. That's how we go about calculating out the different amounts that someone might make.
You're referencing then a net payment, right? When you say take the taxes out, you're really wanting to know what's left over. Nobody cares about a gross number because Uncle Sam's going to take his cut. So you're saying, hey, you take out these things because we want to know how much is husband going to have left over in a given month and how much is wife going to have left over in a given month. And now what about duration?
For duration, that's really judge dependent and circumstance dependent. Some judges have rules of thumb, like half the length of the marriage or a third of the length of the marriage. Other times, I think there's a lot of judges that go by a gut impression of how long they think it should last. And then there's a different category of like transitional maintenance, some time to get their skills back, to get some certifications back so that they can financially support themselves again. So that might be for a year or two.
So what you're saying is it's all over the board, right? Long-term marriages, you could be looking at indefinite, and short-term, it might be a year or two, and it's totally dependent on the circumstances.
Right. And longer term ones. What you do is you start to work up against retirement age very quickly. And then it goes in the other direction, where if someone's 60 years old and they're planning to retire at 65, we don't want to do indefinite because we know that we're going to retire in 5 years. So we want to negotiate for a 5-year or a 4-year maintenance obligation. Whereas you were married for 40 years. If you were married for 20 and you were 50, you might do indefinite maintenance. But you're married even longer, we don't want indefinite anymore.
You ever seen maintenance paid after retirement?
Yeah, in pretty rare circumstance to equalize out Social Security benefits, go through a normal process of being equalized or weren't available to the spouse that's earning less. It's less common, but also like a full stop retirement, I'm not working at all anymore, is also less common these days. Most people enter some kind of semi-retirement.
Okay, you get divorced and things change, right? It could be they change shortly after the divorce, or it could be 10 years down the road. Can spousal support or maintenance orders be changed after a divorce is finalized?
Absolutely, all the time. And that can be from basically any kind of significant financial change, like especially if the person receiving maintenance, their income goes up significantly, or they remarry, if either of them die, the end of child support also being paid, that can be a factor. So if let's say that one party was paying child support of $2,000 a month and maintenance of $2,000 a month, and then the children now are all grown and child support isn't being paid, maybe the person receiving maintenance might go ask that maintenance be raised now to $3,000 or $4,000 a month since they're not now getting that child support.
Give me some outside of the box ideas around maintenance. If somebody's just hell bent and I don't want to pay this, I don't want to see this coming out of my paycheck for the next 10 years going to my ex-spouse, what are some options we give them?
Yeah, so there are ways that we can get creative. One of the most common ones is a buyout where you're lump sum. And there's a whole bunch of reasons you might do that. You don't want to be tied to that person. You don't want to write the check on a monthly basis and have that reminder. You think your income's going to go up, or you're worried about your spouse's income going down, or your soon-to-be ex-spouse is going down. Or if you're on the receiving side, maybe you envision getting remarried shortly after or soon. And you know that if you do get remarried or you'll live like you are married, that maintenance is going to go away anyway. So then you can take a buyout. Another way is to trade like in-kind type of stuff. So you could convert to a legal separation. For example, I see this a lot where it comes down to a couple $100s a month in maintenance. Convert to a legal separation and then stay on your ex-spouse's health insurance for longer. Because let's say you had to go to the marketplace, it's going to cost you a couple $100 minimum, maybe even more. And you can stay on their insurance if you're legally separated, but not divorced. So you get a different way to pay that person's support without actually having to pay much. Because the incremental cost of that extra person on your health insurance is maybe $100 a month or something like that. But to the person receiving the health insurance, That's like a $600 a month benefit.
Those are really great points. So buyout, meaning bird in the hand, two in the bush. You finalize it and you remove that uncertainty of a potential modification in the future because you're going to pay it up front and be done with it at the time of the divorce.
Right. And that doesn't mean you pay like the exact amount. So if your maintenance was going to be $1,000 a month for 5 years, 60 months, you're not going to pay $60,000. You're going to pay less than that because you're getting it up front. If the payor could walk out of the courthouse right after the divorce and get hit by a bus and you don't get a penny in maintenance. So you're taking that risk off the table. In exchange for that, you got to accept a reduced amount. There's some discounting that goes on.
Have you ever negotiated a buyout in your cases?
All the time. It's very common. It's very common for people to not want that connection. They want a clean break and they want certainty over their financial future. They don't want to have to go back to court. They don't have to worry about these things going on in the future. And they primarily, it's like they want a clean break. So it's really common. I would say it's maybe even half and half in maintenance cases where there's a buyout.
Give us some common misconceptions about maintenance that you've heard over the years.
One of the big ones is that it's like always half the length of the marriage, or that you never have to pay maintenance if it's less than 15 years. There aren't standards like that apply statewide or even countywide. It's going to depend on your judge.
Does it matter who files? Let's say wife files for divorce. Is she giving up her right then to ask for maintenance just because she's the one who wants the divorce?
That's another big one, is if somebody is you're the one filing, so then you don't even get to get maintenance because you're the one that wants the divorce, or if one of the parties had an affair that they're forfeiting their right to get maintenance. Those things don't impact whether maintenance is going to be awarded or not. Or if you're a man, you can still receive maintenance. There might be an outdated conception that only men have to pay maintenance. Certainly there's gender biases at work where I would guess the average maintenance payment, but I don't know that actually would make or break any case ever. I think that it's equally likely to be paid. It comes down to the facts and the circumstances. And the law is gender neutral, and it's usually applied gender neutrally.
Yeah. So it's really, when we say no fault state, because Wisconsin is a no fault state when it comes to divorce, that applies to maintenance too. They could be unfaithful, ask for a divorce, leave, and still ask their soon to be ex-spouse to support them after the split. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And I've had to deliver that blow to clients in the past. It's not pleasant. Those situations where you say, brace yourself, you're not going to know what I have to say to you, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you the truth and the reality of it.
One of the hard, but the most important things we have to do is tell them things they don't want to hear, which is, listen, I looked at this. I don't think you're getting maintenance. We can try, but I think it's going to be a waste of effort. And I think it's going to be a waste of your money and your time. And those are tough, but they're necessary sometimes. Those conversations are necessary frequently. That's often why we're being called in to help. Another big one is that you can just quit your job or lower your income and then thereby avoid child support. Because like we talked about, right, it's based on your earning capacity, not what you actually make. They can't force you to work. And plenty of people see that when they're like, I'm 62, I'm going to retire. A judge can say, no, you don't get to retire. You still can. But when they do the math for the maintenance, they're going to use an income for you that's consistent with your prior earnings, maybe, depending on your case. And let's say your goal was to retire at 55. That plan has now changed because you're getting divorced. And it's not that you can't retire, but you're going to pay maintenance as if you're still working.
Yeah, those are great points, Jeff. You are quite an expert with all of this information and always very informative when you are on this podcast. So I so appreciate you sharing your time and insights when it comes to this challenging topic. So thank you again for being with us.
I appreciate being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Maintenance negotiations often go hand in hand with broader financial questions. It's just as important to understand how Wisconsin law actually handles the division of property. So what's considered marital? What can you keep and how is it valued? We dig into all of that in our next video. Click here to watch.